yourself a light, said the Buddha before he died. I think of this every morning as the East begins to tear off its many clouds of darkness, to send up the first signal, a white fan streaked with pink and violet and even green. An old man, he lay down between two sala trees, and he might have said anything, knowing it was his final hour. The light burns upward. It thickens and settles over the fields. Around him, the villagers gathered and stretched forward to listen. Even before the sun itself hangs, disattached in the blue air, I am touched everywhere by its ocean of yellow waves. No doubt he thought of everything that happened in his difficult life. And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills, like a million flowers on fire. Clearly, I'm not needed, yet I feel myself turning into something of inexplicable value. Slowly beneath the branches, he raised his head. He looked into the faces of that frightened crowd. This poem by Mary Oliver, The Buddha's Last Instruction, highlights what has become an issue in modern American Dharma practice. If you're a newcomer and a seeker of knowledge, it's natural to want to find a teacher to guide you on the path. As we walk this path and strive to learn about the Dharma, we pick up information along the way and hopefully become better acquainted with the huge amount of scripture which comprises the knowledge base of Buddhist wisdom. Stephen Batchelor is a contemporary writer with wide and deep experience with many forms of Buddhist practice. He has written about the teacher situation. He began his studies in the Tibetan tradition, where he became familiar with the Samaya, the oath of devotion the student takes to the guru, the lama, one's personal teacher. This idea, unique to Vajrayana Buddhism, elevates the teacher to the level of the other refuges, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, so that one pledges devotion to the teacher and views this person as equal to the other three jewels of refuge. Unfortunately, this Samaya oath has generated controversy of late because of instances of emotional and sexual abuse which have occurred among Vajrayana Buddhist groups in the West. To read some of these accounts is disturbing. One such story from the Shambhala tradition describes instances of emotional and sexual abuse in children as young as 5 years old. There are also stories from Zen centers on the West Coast of similar abuse of the teacher-student relationship. Batchelor feels that the Buddhism of Tibet and Japan were influenced by the feudal cultures in which they developed. He writes, "The problem is systemic. It lies in the synergy of tantric doctrines and feudal structures that allow a teacher to legitimize abusive behavior to himself and his students." Batchelor writes that the Buddha envisioned a group of followers governed not by a single leader or group of leaders, but instead led by the teachings he had delivered. He rejected the guru concept, which had been first present in what was to become the Hindu tradition, in favor of the Kalyanamitta, the spiritual friend. The role of this friend was to help you on the path and for you to become an independent individual in your practice of the Dharma. This model was later dispensed with in the Vajrayana tradition because it was considered part of the Hinayana, the lesser vehicle, which did not provide the secret tantric teachings for attaining enlightenment in a single lifetime. But we cannot lay this problem solely at the feet of Vajrayana Buddhism. Inappropriate relationships have also existed in other centers of Buddhist practice. Even our center here has not been immune from such history. Whenever and wherever there are imperfect human beings, they will sometimes act in imperfect ways. Batchelor also says that the reason Theravada Buddhism is not a guru tradition is not a lack of respect, but rather the importance attached to the Dharma. He sees a teacher helping, rather like a singing teacher would be needed to train a voice, or a good friend might be particularly helpful over a problem period in one's life. The teacher should, to a certain extent, be a friend. One's friends on the path are, to a certain extent, one's teachers. Lobsang Ramge is a former Tibetan monk who served for years as the personal interpreter for the Dalai Lama. He is currently a psychologist on the faculty of the University of California. He writes, "Often these teachers, either monastic or lay, are seen as reincarnate Buddhas or highly realized teachers. And then they are automatically elevated in their own minds, as well as in the minds of their disciples and the people who attend to them. The Tantric teachings, or what they call mind-to-mind transmissions, demonstrate a kind of esoteric elitism. If the student is not ready and doesn't completely understand the process, then it leads to projections and fantasies in the student's mind that in turn may unwittingly guide that student to behave in an uncritically conforming way or become passively indifferent to things that are not right." S.N. Goenka was a leading figure of the Vipassana movement. He taught meditation for 44 years, establishing hundreds of Vipassana centers worldwide. The meditation he teaches is a mental exercise. He does not even describe it as Buddhism. In that way, it could be compared to our own Serenity Pause program here at Unity Temple. In an interview shortly before his death in 2013, he discussed the role of the teacher. He said, "A teacher, out of compassion and love, seeing that someone is suffering, gives a path. But each individual has to walk on the path. There is no magic miracle with the teacher. Totally out of the question. He only shows the path. That is the only role of the teacher, nothing else." He continues, "The Buddha never appointed anybody as a successor. Who am I to appoint? All these 500 or 600 teachers whom I've trained, they will carry on, not because they have faith in the teacher, but they have faith in the technique, which gives them results. That's all that will remain. Otherwise, they think so long as Guru is there, you get all the benefits. Guru is no more, in his words. It's gone. That is a personality cult. The technique is so great, it will survive." Perhaps in recognition of the problems around the Guru devotion issue, what is known as the 4 reliances are contained in several Mahayana sutras, provided almost as an antidote to problems arising from absolute devotion to the Guru. Some later teachers may have recognized the need to return to the Buddha's last instruction and place the proper emphasis on the teaching as opposed to the Guru. The 4 reliances are, number 1, rely not on the person, rely on the teaching. Number 2, rely not on the words, rely on the meaning. Number 3, rely not on what's cryptic, rely on what's clear. And number 4, rely not on opinion, rely on wisdom. These views all point to the need for Buddhism to adapt to the norms of modern American culture. Since its inception, Buddhism has always done this when introduced to a new situation. I have confidence that it can do it again. While I don't disagree with Batchelor's view of the feudal societal influence of the guru devotion model, I would add to this thought another idea in these times of the Me Too movement. Like vermin infesting imported fruit, the Buddha Dharma arrived on our shores with healthy doses of misogyny and homophobia. It's vital that we recognize and separate these features from what is right and good if Buddhism is to survive here. Often people with certain skills and knowledge are asked to become teachers by those seeking to advance their Buddhist practice. It is no wonder that some of us may display hesitation when the request to be someone's teacher is made, because it is with the backdrop of this baggage that guru devotion brings with it. It is a daunting and caution-ridden path to tread. The path of the Kalyanamitta, described by Batchelor and Goyunga, provides us with an ideal to which a teacher can aspire. If you were looking for a teacher, let me suggest that when you next propose that arrangement to someone, ask them not, would you be my teacher? Say instead, would you be my spiritual friend?